Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to open a door that, well, most people in the corporate world try to keep shut.
Oh, I know this door.
It's that dusty, digital room full of files that nobody ever reads. We're talking about knowledge management.
Or KOM.
Yeah.
And I can practically hear the collective sigh from everyone listening. It's got a reputation, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's seen as the place where good ideas go to die in a labyrinth of folders.
Exactly. It just sounds like compliance. It sounds like homework. But as I was reading through the research for this, specifically the work by Mark Graham Brown and some really detailed frameworks from EPPIs, I realized my own cynicism might be part of the problem.
How so?
Because when this is done right, it's not about filing cabinets. It's the reason why some companies innovate while others just, spin their wheels.
That is the core distinction. And to kick this off, I want to reference the title of one of our main sources, the article by Mark Graham Brown. He calls it, "A Little Knowledge Management Can Be a Dangerous Thing."
Which is such a great hook. It sounds like a threat.
It is a threat.
Like, don't try this at home unless you know what you're doing.
It's a warning.
Wow.
Brown is suggesting that just having the technology, just having the database, isn't enough. In fact, if you implement KOM badly, it can actually paralyze your organization.
So it creates noise, not signal.
Precisely.
So before we get into the architecture of how to fix it, I want to ask you, the listener, a question. And be honest.
Yeah, really be honest.
Think about your current job. When you hit a wall, say you don't know how to handle some weird error message, or you don't know the protocol for a new client, where do you go first? Do you log into your company's official multi-million-dollar knowledge portal?
Or do you lean over the cubicle wall or, open up Slack and ask the person sitting next to you?
Or, let's be real, do you just Google it?
If you are like 90% of the workforce, you avoid the official portal like the plague. Right. You ask a neighbor or you Google it. And that reality check is where we have to start.
Okay, so where do we start?
We have a definition here from the American Productivity and Quality Center, the APQC. They define knowledge management as a systematic process of connecting people to people and people to knowledge. They need to effectively act and create new knowledge.
Connecting people to people, that's the part that jumped out at me. It feels very different from connecting people to a SharePoint site.
It is fundamentally different. And the stakes right now are incredibly high. If you look at the companies in our research, Bose, 3M, Boeing, their value isn't just in their physical factories.
Not anymore.
Their value is in their intellectual assets. It's the patents, the processes, the know-how.
Right. If you're a factory in 1950, your value is the giant metal press on the floor. If you're a tech company in 2026, your value is the brains of your employees. But here's the tension I found in the Brown article. He points out this biting irony.
Which is?
Despite the fancy name knowledge management, most corporate systems are just glorified libraries. And bad libraries at that.
Exactly. In a real library, you have a librarian who knows where everything is. In a corporate portal, you're usually on your own. You type in a keyword, get 500 PDF results.
And half of them are 3 years old, and you have no idea which one is the truth.
Brown actually makes the point that the best knowledge management system in the world, the gold standard, is Google. Or Wikipedia.
That's a great point, because when I search Wikipedia, I get the answer immediately. I don't have to navigate a login screen, and it's not trying to sell me something.
Immediate gratification. That is the user expectation today, and that sets our mission for this deep dive.
Okay, so what's the mission?
We need to figure out why the corporate version of Google usually fails, what Brown calls the activity trap, and then we're going to look at the solution, which is moving toward a performance competence architecture.
So let's walk into that trap first, the dangerous thing. What does a typical failed KM rollout look like? Because reading the source material, I felt a little triggered.
I think most of us have lived it.
I feel like I've been through this exact scenario 3 or 4 times.
It usually starts with executive FOMO, fear of missing out. Someone reads a bestseller, goes to a conference, and hears about the knowledge economy.
And they decide we need to capture our wisdom.
So what do? They hire consultants. They issue an RFP, and the goal becomes, let's build a massive database.
It's the field of dreams strategy.
Build it, and they will come.
Right.
Precisely. They interview subject matter experts. They scan thousands of documents. They launch a shiny new website. They spend, hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars. They throw a launch party. And then
they measure success by activity.
Exactly.
This is the part that drives me crazy. The executives get a report saying, look, we had 5,000 logins this month. But Brown describes what happens a year later. The consultants are gone, the cupcakes from the launch party are stale. And the usage?
It flatlines. It declines steadily. Employees realize the search function is terrible, or the documents are too dense to be useful in a pinch. So they go back to asking Dave in accounting.
And the scariest part, the part that should keep CEOs up at night, is that the most valuable information is still walking out the door every time someone retires.
This brings us to a really critical distinction in the text. Explicit versus tacit knowledge.
Yes, I feel like this is where the whole library model just completely breaks down. We think we're capturing knowledge, but we're really just capturing data. Can you break those two down for us?
Sure, this is the difference between reading a recipe and being a chef. Explicit knowledge is the easy stuff. It's what you can write down, a formula, a spec sheet, a regulatory code.
You can put that in a PDF?
You can put it in a database. It's codifiable.
Okay, so that's the stuff that ends up in the portal. But tacit knowledge?
Tacit knowledge is messy. It resides in people's heads. It's intuition. It's experience.
Give me an example.
Think of an old maintenance mechanic working on a specific machine. The explicit knowledge says, tighten the bolt to 40 Newton meters. That's the rule.
Right, follow the instructions.
But the mechanic knows, through 20 years of tacit knowledge, that on this specific machine, you actually have to wiggle the bolt slightly to the left and listen for a specific click before you tighten it.
Ah.
Or else the whole thing vibrates and breaks down a week later.
And you can't easily search for wiggle it slightly to the left and listen for a click.
Exactly. That nuance isn't in the manual. So when that mechanic retires, the company keeps the manual, the explicit stuff, but they lose the feel, the tacit stuff. And suddenly, the machines start breaking, and nobody knows why.
Because the real knowledge just left the building.
It left the building.
Yeah.
And yet, companies try to prove their KM program is working by showing a dashboard full of numbers like, look, we uploaded 200 documents this month.
Brown calls these meaningless activities, it's the measurement fallacy.
Right. Just because you held a meeting or built a website doesn't mean the business is performing better. You are measuring effort, not effect.
Okay, so we have a digital landfill that no one uses, we're bleeding brain power, and we're celebrating 5,000 hits on a homepage. That is indeed a dangerous thing.
It is.
So let's pivot. How do we fix this? Because we can't just not manage knowledge. The second set of sources we have focuses on a knowledge management system of curated and created content.
And this requires a complete shift in mindset. You have to stop thinking like a librarian collecting books and start thinking like an architect building a house.
Okay.
The EPPI source has a mantra that sums it up perfectly. It's not all about learning. It's all about performance.
It's all about performance. That sounds good, but isn't that just corporate speak? What does it actually look like?
Well, think about how most systems are organized by topic.
Right, you have a folder for sales, a folder for HR, a folder for engineering. It's like the Dewey Decimal System.
Exactly. The EPPI model proposes an enterprise content architecture, or ECA. And the idea is to organize content by its utility to the job role. Not what is this about, but who needs this to do their job.
Okay, the source breaks this down into 5 tiers, which I found really helpful. Let's walk through them with an example. Let's say we have a new employee, Sarah, starting as a sales rep.
Perfect. Sarah, day 1. Tier 1 content is organizational orientations. This is the stuff she gets immediately. Mission, vision, values. The big picture.
So she knows she works for a company that sells high-end widgets and values integrity. Got it. Everyone gets that.
Right. Tier 2 is performance orientations. This is a bit more focused. What are the high-level goals for the sales department this year? What does good look like for her team?
So pretty high level. Sell more widgets.
Then we get into the gears. Tier 3 is enabling knowledge and skills, the prerequisites.
So before Sarah can sell a single widget,
She needs to understand the laws regulating widget sales. She needs to know the product specs. She needs to know how to use the CRM software.
okay, this is what we traditionally think of as training, the 101 stuff.
Yes. But then we move to Tier 4, shared performance how-to. These are tasks that Sarah does, but so does the engineer and so does the HR manager.
Like how to submit an expense report or how to book a conference room.
You got it. You don't need a special sales version of how to submit expenses. You just need the company way.
One way.
And finally, Tier 5, unique performance how-to. This is the holy grail. This is content specific to Sarah's unique job code,
Wow.
how to conduct a quarterly business review for a Tier 1 client in the aerospace sector.
That is incredibly specific. So in a traditional system, Sarah searches business review and gets 50 results from every department.
Engineering reviews, HR reviews, safety reviews.
But in this architecture, because the system knows she's a level 2 account rep, it filters all that out and serves her the specific Tier 5 guide for her job.
Precisely. It cuts the noise.
Yeah.
And this introduces a critical concept, push versus pull.
I see push and pull in marketing, but how does that apply here?
In traditional training, we push content. We send Sarah to a 3-day workshop on advanced negotiation. We push it at her, whether she needs it then or not.
And 2 weeks later, she's forgotten 90% of it. The classic training decay.
Right. Pull is different. Pull is performance support. It's a checklist, a cheat sheet, a 2-minute video that Sarah grabs or pulls at the exact moment she needs it.
Right before she walks into that client meeting.
She needs to know the 3 steps to handle an objection right now.
So it's just in time versus just in case.
Exactly. And to build this, the source uses a really fascinating engineering analogy. They talk about a bill of materials for learning.
I loved this visual because if you build a car, you have a BOM for every single screw, bolt, and wire.
And if you miss one screw, the car falls apart.
The source argues you need that same rigor for job competence. They outline a knowledge skill matrix with 17 categories of enabling knowledge.
Things like company policies, laws and regulations, marketplace knowledge, product knowledge.
It's a huge list, and my first thought was, wow, that sounds like a lot of paperwork.
It does, but the goal is actually subtraction. The matrix acts like a filter. You map these categories to Sarah's specific job code.
Okay, so you say, for this job code, she needs a heavy dose of Category 7 product knowledge, but she doesn't need Category 14 management at all.
And she only needs a cursory overview of Category 3 legal.
That makes so much sense. It stops the overload. You're building a custom competence profile for every role. You aren't forcing Sarah into the management course just because it was there.
It respects her time.
Yeah.
It says, we're going to give you exactly the bill of materials you need to perform. No more, no less.
So we've got a better architecture. We're organizing by performance, not just alphabetically. We're using push and pull correctly, but we still have that measurement problem.
The dangerous thing.
Yeah. If we aren't counting hits, what should we be counting? Because the CFO still wants to know if the money is being wasted.
This is where we go back to Mark Graham Brown and a great example from the Ford Motor Company.
Right. Ford had a really interesting approach here. They realized that sharing knowledge doesn't matter if nobody uses it.
Exactly. Ford focused on outcomes. They didn't care how many people downloaded a best practice document on painting door handles.
They cared about adoption.
They measured how many ideas developed in one factory were adopted and implemented in another factory.
That is brilliant. It's not, did you read it? It's, did you replicate the success?
And then, did it pay off? They tracked the financial impact. Because Factory B adopted Factory A's method, we saved $500,000 in paint costs this quarter. That's a metric a CFO cares about.
But Brown adds a warning here, which I think is key. You can't only look at financials. He calls them lagging indicators.
Because they tell you what happened in the past. If you wait for the annual report to see if your KM system is working, it's too late to fix it.
You need a dashboard that mixes lagging indicators with leading indicators.
Right.
So what does a leading indicator look like here? If I can't count clicks, what predicts future success?
It measures behavior and engagement. The source mentions an aerospace client. They tracked. Are high-level, talented individuals actively engaged in the system? Are your experts contributing? Or are they ignoring it?
So if your best engineers, the ones with all that tacit knowledge, are ghosting the system, that is a leading indicator that your system is about to fail.
Even if the sales numbers look okay right now.
It's an early warning system.
Exactly. The recommended mix in the source is roughly 60%. Lagging to get the outcome, and 40% leading our people behaving in a way that creates value.
That seems like a much healthier diet than just 100%. How many PDFs did we upload? It feels actionable.
It shifts the conversation from activity to value. But there's one final piece of this puzzle, and frankly, it's the part most companies are terrible at. Maintenance.
The evergreen challenge.
Yes.
Yeah.
The source talks about pruning and maintenance. Think about that library again. If you walk in and half the books have pages torn out or the encyclopedias are from 1985.
I'm walking out. I don't trust the information anymore. And if I don't trust it, I'm not using it.
And trust is the currency of knowledge management. If Sarah pulls down that how to negotiate guide and it references a pricing structure from 2 years ago, she will never use the system again.
She goes back to asking Dave.
And once you lose that trust, it is incredibly hard to get back.
But keeping everything updated sounds expensive. I can hear the budget manager screaming about that.
It is expensive,
Uh-huh.
which is why the tiers matter. The source talks about reducing life cycle costs. If you have a policy that applies to everyone, say, the vacation policy, that is tier 4, you build it once, you maintain it in one place.
Instead of every department manager writing their own version and saving it on their own hard drive, I see where this is going.
Exactly. If you have 50 different versions of the vacation policy floating around, that is a maintenance nightmare. If you have one master version, you update it once, and everyone is current. That is cost avoidance.
So the upfront cost of organizing it correctly pays for itself in the maintenance phase.
It does. And for the unique Tier 5 content, you assign ownership. You know exactly who's responsible for keeping it green. If you don't assign ownership, it rots.
So it's not launch and leave, it's launch and prune.
First protect and then improve the enterprise. That is the ultimate goal mentioned in the EPPC material. You protect the enterprise by ensuring people are competent and compliant.
So they don't make mistakes.
And you improve it by sharing those Ford-style best practices.
It really changes the scope of what we're talking about. Knowledge management isn't software you buy off the shelf. It's a strategy for competence.
It is. It's about recognizing that your value lies in what your people know, especially that tacit, hard-to-capture knowledge.
It's about organizing that knowledge not like a library, but like a toolkit mapped to specific job codes.
And it's about measuring the right things, not clicks, but adoption. Did this knowledge actually help someone do their job better?
And finally, recognizing that knowledge is a living thing. It grows, it changes, and it rots.
If you don't prune it, the best architecture in the world just becomes a jungle.
I want to leave the listener with a thought to chew on. As you go back to your own work today, open up your company's intranet or learning portal, look at the dashboard or the home page.
And ask yourself this.
Is your organization measuring how many documents you downloaded this month? Or are they measuring whether that document actually helped you fix a problem that saved the company money? The difference between those two metrics is the difference between a library and a competitive advantage.
And in a world driven by intellectual assets, that difference is everything.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.